I think happiness is overrated. I think the world in which we live uses the word happy over and over to try to get at something within the depths of each one of us that is much greater than a desire for happiness. I think each one of us has this deep desire for something greater than ourselves. We have this incredibly exalted longing for fulfillment, for the opportunity to find a way for our lives to connect with something that has deep purpose and meaning. This is what we, each single one of us, authentically desires. And happiness is just too superficial of a word to describe that incredible desire for fulfillment, for human flourishing, for meaning, and for purpose. And so, our world says to us, everything that we need to be fulfilled in that most personal, most profound, most powerful way is simply available right in front of us. All that we authentically need, this is what our society says, what we need is right here. And we could kind of boil it down if we were to simplify things, because everyone loves a brief homily. 3 things you need, our society says, to be fulfilled. 1, you need to make sure you purchase the right things. You buy the right objects. And not only purchase and buy the correct objects, but you get enough of them. Because your fulfillment will be accomplished through accumulating the right things and enough of them. Number 2, you need to find that perfect mate. That person with whom, or multiple people, with whom you can satisfy whatever your body has by way of physical urges. You need to make sure all of those urges and those desires are fulfilled. Because once you satisfy them or have the ability to continually satisfy the urges of your body with other people, then you can be fulfilled. It's that seeking of pleasure which will allow you to be your best self. And number 3, you have to vote for the right people. You have to make sure that you give power to the right people in our world. That the right people, and it doesn't matter which side, because society says they're still the right people, you have to make sure they have power, because if the right people have power, they're going to turn around and say to you, here's what I promise. I promise that I can manipulate things so that you can be fulfilled in this world. I'm going to make sure the marketplace is set so you can buy whatever you want and however much you want. I'm going to make sure the rules are set so that you can fulfill every urge that you have and every desire you have. I'm going to make it possible for you to find fulfillment here and now. This is what the people in power say. And not only that, they say that they will maintain injustice on your behalf. They will wage war on your behalf. They will keep the evils of the society in which we live stable so that you can find your fulfillment here and now. And you know what? I think we're to blame. Not you individually. I think Christians are to blame for this. Because a long time ago, Christianity became really, really powerful in our world. Politically powerful, economically powerful, socially powerful. So we had a vested interest in maintaining this social order. And so the gospel message changed a little bit. And the church started talking about a very narrow set of rules. We became like moral nannies. We told you that God was a policeman looking to make sure you follow the right rules. It was a really narrow set of rules. Usually the rules were just about sex. And so for so long, the church was simply about telling you what rules to follow. And if you follow the rules, good. You've got something better coming. And what did we do? We gave up the gospel. We abandoned the real gospel of Jesus Christ. We set ourselves up as Christians as one spiritual option amongst many. Right? If you want to kind of sort of do a spiritual thing as a Christian, great, that's wonderful, welcome, you can do that. Or if you want to find fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment in the marketplace, you can do that. That's great, right? If you want to find spiritual fulfillment and deeper meaning and purpose in power politics, great, you can do that. We said we're one option amongst many, and in so doing, we gave up the gospel, the true message of Jesus Christ. Because I don't know if you heard it. There is something profoundly subversive about the messages we heard today in the first reading and in the gospel message. And here's what it is. What would make a mother of 7 sons stand by and watch her beloved children being tortured and killed? What would motivate her to do that? Why would somebody do that if they were convinced that their fulfillment was in this life? If they believed that the promises of this world were all that was necessary for fulfillment, then she and all of her sons would have gone along. They would have surrendered. They would have given up and say, we'll do whatever you want because you're the ones who really have the ability to give us happiness. What in the world is Jesus talking about in the gospel message when he's talking about the resurrection of the dead, the life of the world to come? Notice, Jesus never said the word heaven. He's not talking about heaven. He's talking about something greater, something beyond, something that comes after heaven. He's talking about God's plan for this world. And here's the subversive message. If we Christians, if this idea, if this faith in the resurrection of the dead, the life of the world to come, we say it in the Our Father when we say, thy kingdom come. Father, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. If we allow this faith in the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world, I'm going to say that again, I really want you to hear this. The resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. If we really believe this, and this idea infects our society once again, just like it did so many hundreds of years ago when the apostles were preaching, if this faith actually infects our society, it's subversive. It undoes all of the structures of our world. And here's why. Because if we Christians place our hope in the world to come, again, notice I'm not using the word heaven, because I'm not talking about heaven. Heaven is temporary. It's going to end. Jesus is going to fix this world, and then heaven comes here. The life of the world to come. If we place our hope in the life of the world to come, Christians become really bad consumers. Because we're not going out to the marketplace to buy things to fulfill our deepest longings. And if we become really bad consumers because we're not buying things to make ourselves fulfilled, what happens to our economic system? If we as Christians allow this faith to infect our lives positively, we stand in contradiction to those who would live their lives seeking all forms of pleasure and fulfilling every one of their desires. We become a sign of contradiction, a sign of discomfort, a sign of criticism to the world, and people don't like that. Christians who allow this idea of the life of the world to come really are bad pleasure seekers. What happens if we let this idea deeply sink into the way that we live? We become, and this is controversial, but I mean every word, we become bad citizens. Because we will no longer tolerate the injustice, the inequality, and the bloodshed poured out on our behalf. We no longer would tolerate this ridiculous cycle of power politics where people promise us everything, including paradise itself, here and now, and we bestow upon them all forms of authority so that they can kill and do all sorts of evil and injustice on our behalf. That cycle of power and dominance and death, we become bad citizens because we no longer tolerate that evil. Because those elected officials, they're no longer our real authority. Now God is. Because when the life of the world to come, when the dead are raised, God will take from them any version of power and authority that they ever had. And He will put things right. He will fix the injustice, the inequality, and redress and hear the bloodshed that cries out to Him for justice. He will come against all those who waged wars and endured inequality and supported injustice. We allow this hope in the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. If we actually believe in this, we no longer submit our hopes and dreams to political figures and political systems thinking they're going to really fix the world. No, they're the ones who broke it. This is why the gospel is good news to those who believe and bad news to those who don't. Because if you place your hope in the promises of this world, not in the life of the world to come, please, again, here, I'm not talking about heaven. If you place your hope in the promises of this world, not in the life of the world to come where God is truly king, if you place your hope here, when that world comes, you will be damned. But if you place your hope in Jesus Christ, if you seek to allow that good news of the life of the world to come, if you believe that God truly is the creator of His world, the authority in this world, and will someday fix this world, then you, like that mother and her 7 sons, like what Jesus was talking about, someday you and I will live, not just some spirit in some reality removed from here, no, but the resurrection of the dead. As Jesus rose from the dead Easter Sunday morning, you will too, and you will dwell in eternal paradise here in the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. This is the good news of the gospel. This is the promise of a God who made the world good, and then sin broke it, and He said, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to set it right. This is the great hope of us Christians. This is the most good part of the good news. And so the challenge for us is, how do we seek our deepest fulfillment? Do we live for the values of this world, or do we live for the world to come? Now please understand, and I know I'm going long, I'm not proposing that we as Christians run away from the world. I'm not saying that we go off and join a monastery. I'm not saying that we run away and we hide because the world is evil and bad and we need to get out of it. No. I'm not saying that at all. Jesus spent 30 years of his life working in the world as a normal person. We ought to do the same. I am saying is, though that we live and we work and we dwell in this world, not as if the world, we live and we work and we dwell in this world as if we're waiting for another world. We don't live and work and dwell in this world as if this world can fulfill every one of our desires. We don't give in to that lie. We live here as if we're waiting for there. We live now as we're longing for the future. We rejoice in this moment of such inequality, sorrow, and anger, and discord and division. We live now with a hope the world cannot give because we're waiting for a world to come. Live and thrive and be active in this world as if to transform it. This is the Christian vocation. Do not conform your lives to this world, St. Paul writes, but rather be transformed by your mind, by your joy, by your hope in a world to come, so that you may help one day transform this world. That is our vocation as Christians. That's what we mean when we pray the Our Father. Father, thy kingdom come. Your kingdom, not the kingdom of this world. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I believe in the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world